Hello and welcome to the video. And this video is about the Days of Elijah song and the Year of Jubilee line in that song and what it really means based on the Bible. Most people calling themselves Christians have no concept whatsoever of what the Year of Jubilee is in the Bible because they've never actually read the Bible. As a matter of fact, according to some Christian Science polls and other Christian polls, most Christians have never read two entire books in the Bible, and furthermore, most Christians cannot even name two books in the Bible. Most people calling themselves Christians. So it comes as no surprise that they've never read about the law of Jubilee and the year of Jubilee in the Bible. All right, so what is the year of Jubilee according to the Bible? Well, according to the Bible, once every 50 years, the filthy rich people are supposed to sell all of their excess possessions and give the possessions back to the poor people that they basically robbed them from through their corrupt and false economic systems. All right. Because basically, Jesus said that a rich man cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven unless he becomes as a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. All right. How hardly shall a rich man enter into the kingdom of heaven, said Jesus. It is harder for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. All right. So what did Jesus, and Jesus supported the year of Jubilee. He told the rich young ruler, after the rich young ruler said that he had kept the 10 Commandments all of his life, Jesus did not, as Jimmy Swaggart does, claim that the rich young ruler was lying. The rich young ruler was not lying. I've kept the 10 Commandments all of my life. I can count on two hands the number of lies I've told in my entire life that I know of, and I've only stolen one time in my life. And my mother caught me and tanned my hide when I was about 6 or 7 years old and sent me back into the store to return what I stole. And that's the first and last time I ever stole something in my life. I am a 43 years old virgin, so I have kept thou shalt not commit adultery and thou shalt not covet. Whereas 99.99% of Christian pastors have never kept any of the 10 Commandments with the possible exception of thou shalt not murder. And they hate one another in their hearts. They all bicker over who has the biggest church and blame the other guy, and they're all wrong. But anyway, Jesus didn't blame the rich young ruler at all. He said, you only lack one thing. Sell all of your possessions and go give the money to the poor. It's the year of Jubilee. That's what Jesus told the rich young ruler. And then it says that the rich young ruler went away sad and didn't obey him because he had many possessions and was sorry that his possessions were so great. If Donald Trump's real favorite book was the King James Bible, much less the Hebrew Bible in the original context, because the King James is mistranslated in several places that radically alters what you ought to believe about Jesus or anybody else claiming to be God in the flesh. All right. But anyway, if Donald Trump's real favorite book was the Hebrew Bible, he would obey the year of Jubilee. Donald Trump has never obeyed the year of Jubilee. So according to Jesus, he must not be saved. Jimmy Swaggart has never obeyed the year of Jubilee. Joel Osteen has never obeyed the year of Jubilee. Creflo Dollar and Joyce Meyer and Kenneth Copeland have definitely never obeyed the year of Jubilee. Kenneth Copeland is supposedly one of the richest men in the world. He's supposedly the richest pastor in the world. But if you actually counted Jimmy Swaggart's net worth correctly, he's about 10 times richer than Kenneth Copeland. He takes up a quarter of Kenneth Copeland's entire net worth every year. And he's been doing it for 60 years. And he blows it on doing nothing more than self-aggrandization, founding more churches and Bible colleges after his own name and naming them after himself. The book of Proverbs said wicked people name things after themselves. He took down the name World Evangelism Bible College and renamed it Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, Wicked people name their land after themselves, says the Bible, the book of Proverbs. Good people name things in honor of God. Not themselves. So the year of Jubilee is when all of these false prophet pastors are supposed to sell everything they own and give it back to the poor people. They tell the poor people to give them money and then they'll get rich. The book of Proverbs says, he who robs from the poor and he who gives to the rich shall both come to lack or poverty. So do not believe anybody, not Swaggart or anybody else, telling you that God will bless you if you give your money to a pastor. They are a liar. If you are in poverty, you need to work your way out of poverty or get on disability if you're disabled. You do not need to give your money to a pastor. That is a false Ponzi scheme, and Swaggart does the exact same thing everybody else does. He's got telethons 2 times a week where he's so busy collecting money that if you call in to correct him about something or talk to him about something, you can't get through. And his false prophet's son sat there and said that his gospel could only go as far as a dollar bill could carry it. What did Jesus say about money? Jesus said, quote, "The love of money is the root of all evil," end quote. The indefinite article a does not exist in the original text. It's actually the definite article the. The love of money is the root of all evil. Greed. You'll break any commandment in the Bible because of greed. You'll murder your own spouse or child or parent because of greed. And if that's true, you'll do any other broken commandment because of greed. Greed is the root of all evil, the love of money, according to Jesus. Greed is the exact opposite of love. Love gives to people, especially when you already have excess yourself. Love gives to anybody that asks. Greed takes from people without asking, whether or not you ask. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump do nothing but take for their own selves. And 99.99% of all Christians I have ever met or heard of do the same thing. They claim they believe in God and they're two-faced liars. I know a man who was a Catholic, born a Catholic, and had been a Catholic for 40-something years, and was an adulterer and a self-admitted adulterer and married 4 times. And he later claimed that he didn't know any better and claimed that he got saved on Lake Pontchartrain. He's a liar then, too. All right? Now that I think about it, I never should have been hanging around it, and neither should my family. But he was a liar then, and he was a liar afterwards. Because if he was actually taught anything in catechism, he should have known that adultery was a sin all along. And obeying God is as simple as obeying God. I'm a 43-year-old virgin. And I wouldn't marry 99.99% of American women if they were the last woman alive on earth and begged me to. I would not do it. And I am straight, but I would not do it because they are whores, they're abortionists, they're atheists, and they are hateful. They're murderers. They're false accusers. I'm not an involuntary celibate. I'm a celibate by choice. There isn't a woman alive that's worth it. There really isn't. I would rather die a virgin and go to heaven than to have sex with one of you whores and baby murderers and go to hell with you. Do you understand me? I would much rather die a virgin, and I will die a virgin, and go to heaven than to have anything to do with one of you whores and baby murderers. And I do not spend my time with drunks and alcoholics and drug abusers and whores and prostitutes and homosexuals and baby murderers. If I find out you're breaking those commandments and I rebuke you a time or two and you don't fix what you're doing wrong, I stop hanging around you because I don't want to be associated with you. God said, come out from among those sinners and be you holy, for I am holy.